At the center of the universe, at the border between the light and the dark, stands Castle Grayskull. For countless ages, the heroes of Grayskull have defended the universe against the forces of evil. Walk through the Hall of Living Pictures and learn the history and mystery of the Masters of the Universe. Dive deep into the mythology of Eternia, Etheria, and more. For those who know the stories of Grayskull will come the power. The power to be supreme. The power to be all-knowing. The power to be Legends of Grayskull.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 14 and a half of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Primus, Nordor, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Filmation, Jet Lag, Netflix, and even some records? I'm Matthew Dukes.
Records.
I'm here with Sean Scavarna. Sean, how we doing tonight?
I'm okay. You know personally, it has been a little bit of a weird week for me, but you went and decided, hey, let's do something fun that's completely off the beaten path for us tonight. I'm pretty pumped. So,
yep. Before we get to that, I think we got a little bit of news to discuss. Not a lot, but there's been a few things here. I don't know if you've seen it, but they released the in-package shots of Masters of the Universe Origins for the first wave.
Yep, saw those.
Yeah, so we got, what is it? Skeletor, Evelyn, and Beastman, and then Man-at-Arms, He-Man, and Teela, right? That was the 6?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, yep.
Yeah. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not because, we've said our thoughts on Origins quite a bit here. We're not going to rehash that tonight, folks. But the interesting thing in seeing those package figures is that you can catch just a little glimpse of the mini-comic behind them.
See, I didn't look that closely. So, okay.
Oh, I did. And I want to say, the one that I could see there, it looked like, obviously you could tell that there was He-Man on the cover. I mean, it's hard to see much because it's blocked and everything, but I wanted to say It looked like the title is 2 words, and it looked like both words started with B. The best I could think of looking at it was Barbarian Begins, but I don't know. But the interesting thing to me was every one of those figures had the same mini-comic behind them. And
I heard the potential of that was there, but I was hoping it wasn't. I was hoping that it like, not that it wasn't, but I was hoping that it isn't the case, is what I should be saying.
Oh, I sincerely, if all 6 of those figures come with the same mini-comic, like the kid completes the first wave, and they've got 6 copies of this same comic.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not even saying you have to go 4 like the original first wave. But I figure at least 2, like an Evil Warriors and a Heroic Warriors one. So,
that's rough.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because the Masters of the WWE universe, they all came with individual ones based on the figure.
Yep.
So every figure got a different one. But those are actually only 2 pages long.
It's basically a folded piece of paper.
Yeah,
That's it.
It's a folded piece of paper. It's got the cover and the back cover, and then the interior story is only 2 pages. So I remember back, that was the worry, was people were contacting Mattel going, is this what you're going to do with Origins? And like, no. Origins is going to have full books. There's still going to be mini comics, so you're looking probably 8 to 10 pages. It's not a full-size comic, obviously, but But now the question is, are we getting more than one? Because
I don't know. Like when I saw the packaging photos this week, I felt like they were legit. Here's the photo of the whole thing. It wasn't like a mock-up. And
so I felt too.
When the Ultimates line came out back in they shipped in 2017, but I guess you could order them in 2016 from Super 7.
Right.
They mocked them up in Photoshop, and you could completely tell here's the figure photoshopped into the plastic, and here's the back of the card and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a part of me that goes, maybe it's still test shots of these just to put them out there and keep the excitement and the excitement alive, basically, for the fans. But I also heard somewhere they were saying that they were going to do like one book, and all of them were going to have the same book. And that was something that I heard once, and I'm like, if they're smart, they shouldn't be doing that. So I dismissed it just out of like, that's just stupid. Like, here's another thing real quick. With this day and age and the multimedia advantages that you would think they would want to put into this line, how is it that with the mini comics they wouldn't want to do something where they give you a website or like a QR code or something, and you scan it, and each Monday, because they always do the Masters Mondays or Motu Mondays or whatever you call them, why wouldn't they want to do something where maybe they put up a few more pages, like every Monday you get 2 more pages until the story's finished or something? Like, that would be enough that you could at least gauge the interactivity of these kind of things versus here's the same comic all across the board, and kids are just going to throw these things out because why would you hold on to 6 different copies of the same thing?
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, for us, is getting all those different mini comics. Like, well, I want more figures, not only because the figures are cool, but it's like, I want to see where the story's going. Like, oh, look, Armin's got a different comic. Like, what happens? It helps build that foundation. It helps you introduce these characters without having to rely on the cartoon or any books or anything else. Like, it's right there. It introduces you to the world. It gives you the other characters, and so then you're going, okay, like I know about this world just from buying this one toy, and now I want to buy more.
Exactly. Or at the end.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say at the end it could be kind of cool where they go for more of the story by the merman figure. Right. It's like you're built in here. They want to get the next one either because they like the story or they like the figure or whatever. And it's almost like recommending, hey, if you like Skeletor, Beastman's for you too, maybe, or whatever.
And like I said, I can't believe that they didn't go okay, even if you don't want to put it out for free just for anybody, put a code in there where you go to Mattel.com/Master of the Universe. And instead of the mini comic, it's the graphic. It's like the mock-up cover, but then it's just a single piece of paper, and on the back is a code. And then you go to the website, and you can redeem the code for a digital comic, because digital comics are big right now.
Sure.
And it's funny because they actually did that in Classics. I don't know if you knew about that.
I only have one of the mini comics from Classics because I haven't been buying them. I've been getting them loose, so half the time I don't even get like the extras like that or like the maps or whatever.
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't. They did do the printed mini comics, but I just found out today because I opened my Shakoti earlier today, and the guy who sold it to me sent it to me in a Geldor mailer. It just must have been whatever he had.
Sure.
But on the back here is an ad to get a free He-Man and the Masters Universe #1 digital comic book. I didn't even realize they did this, and it's got a website and a code, and you go there and you get it's the first issue of that mini series, the Amnesia storyline, which is not.
That's going to really help.
But like they did it back then, why aren't they doing that now with the kids who all have their? Yes, I'm going to sound like the old man. They all have their iPods and iPads and their their computer junk. You know,
Yep.
like, I mean, I'm all for printed mini comics. Don't get me wrong. That's how I prefer it. But if it's the cost between, okay, we can do one mini comic a wave versus maybe we can do at least 2 or 3, depending on, digitally, and just print a code in there. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer, because the more stories, the better. The more involved you get. So.
Exactly.
Like I said, this may all be for nothing, but I wanted to address it because that was the first thing I noticed with those package shots. And like you said, those things look final to me. And I know they're supposed to be shipping in the fall, so you're thinking that those are, if they're not, excuse me, if they're not final, they're darn close to final. So.
Yep. Yeah. Whoever came up with that one, they're gonna have to be like, really. Like when they get released and all these kids are like, oh, I just throw that out. Really?
Right.
It's like, really, Bob, this was your idea. Thank you so much. Or whatever his name is. Or her name is, maybe.
And the one other thing I want to mention right quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Again, it's not something necessarily that I'm into, but it's neat, and for those fans who like it. So for the Masters of the WWE Universe, it just turned out that, that's the crossover toys where they take the wrestlers and they make them look like Masters characters. And so Google Play Store has a game called WWE Champions 2020. And it is an action RPG and puzzle battle where you compete in contests based on NXT, Raw, SmackDown, and more. Collect over 200 superstars, including The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, blah, blah, blah. 35 million players compete to get to WrestleMania. Most of that's foreign to me. I was never a big wrestling guy.
Me neither.
But the cool thing is, for those who like it, is that they have shown that they are releasing the Masters of the WWE Universe into this game. So right there you got the Faker John Cena and what they call him, the Skull King Triple H, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
I saw when I went to look up the game, they also show the Macho Man. No, that's not Macho Man. Ultimate Warrior. So if you guys, if this is something that you guys are interested in, go check out the WWE Champions 2020 on Google Play, probably on that horrid iTunes store too. So it's my.
This is why we don't have many ratings in the podcast app on Apple.
It might be. I'm not gonna lie.
'Cause I go in there like every now and then. I'm like, I wonder if we got another rating. Oh, it's still the same ones. Okay.
Yeah, I will say that the audio versions have a lot of plays, but nobody seems to actually rate or whatever the platform's thing is for Podbean or Spotify or whatever. They just listen and move on. So
yeah, well, I guess our fans have they're busy. They're busy people. So.
But they're listening. So.
But we're glad that you're along with us no matter what. So there you go.
Yep. And so I don't have much to say about this. I just wanted to throw it out there because if that's one of those lines that's cool to you, you like wrestling, hey, it's cool that it's getting the exposure. It can only help, right? I mean,
yeah, maybe they'll add in the Masters guys eventually too, because I mean, I never thought I'd see the day they're doing this kind of stuff, to be honest. And I mean, I have yet to pick up a single one of those figures. For me, it's just flat out like I see them, and the only one that I thought appealed to me was the Skull King or whatever they call him. But just knowing it's not a Masters guy underneath all of that makes me just go, I can't do it. I just can't do it. It just no.
I thought about picking one up just to rip it and play with it and just kind of test how the origins are going to feel. Yeah, but I haven't pulled the trigger. The only one that really screams to me is that Rey Mysterio, who's got the Stratos.
The Stratos, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something. There's something about his color scheme, and that one's really done really well. Where I'm like, you know what, this guy would actually like fit in. Like once Origins comes out, like I could see you dropping him in here because he looks to me
Yeah.
the most like a Masters character. Like I could stick him behind Stratos as backup, and I'd
Hmm.
probably be okay with that. Whereas some of them just look like the John Cena's, they just look like John Cena with He-Man armor or whatever, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
Yeah, the Faker one is one where I was like, oh, but it's never made me want to pull the trigger. It's just like, oh,
right,
cool, translucent, because translucent was always something. When I was a
yeah,
kid, it usually made me go, all right, that's cool. And then the Skull King one I like, and
hmm
like when I saw that one, I was like, this is like if Skeletor and Shao Kahn had like a weekend in Atlantic City, and something 9 months later shows up on his doorstep. Like, it's the
yeah,
weirdest amalgam looking figure, but at the same time, it looks hardcore enough to go like this could be in Masters and it would work. But
yes,
even that, I'm just kind of like,
yeah,
until the Masters ones come out, I'm not even giving these the time of day, and it's just my OCD about it. I guess I need to have the Masters guys before I'd even jump into something that isn't Masters but close.
yeah. If
So
I tell you what, if I probably the biggest thing right now is price to me, where it's like, man, I don't really want to, and they're only 15. Like that's not a
hmm
terrible price, but I'm like, for something for me just to like play around with and see how it feels, like that seems like a lot. So
yeah,
if I ever saw them on clearance and they were like 10 or less, I'd probably pull the trigger on one or two just because at that point, you know.
yeah. I For me, it's definitely boiled down also to just the fact that Origins is really not where my heart is, no matter
Yeah.
what they try to promote for it. And I think we're both in the same boat there, so we don't
Right.
have that pros and cons going back and forth. That's the one thing about our show. We agree so much, and you're like, man, we agree way too much. I didn't expect this when we started, but
No.
in the case of this, it's true. And I like that at least we both agree on this, because it feels like there's so many people out there that are like, oh, this is the most amazing thing since Jesus walked on water, and I'm like, it's all right, but
Hey, if you
have you met classics? I'm
yeah.
like, yeah.
No, if you
So
and no offense, guy, if you feel like Origins is the best thing ever, great. I'm glad for
yeah,
you, but
that's cool.
I'm not seeing it yet. We'll see what happens. You know, once I see them on shelves, it could be a completely different story. I may just
Yeah.
my heart might melt, and I bought Stranger Things in when I see it in stores, and loyal subjects. I swore I was never gonna buy
Yep,
any, and I've got quite a few.
I did that too.
So
Yeah.
Pops, I said I went by Pops, and I saw that Slime Pit He-Man and GameStop, and I'm like, oh hell,
Uh-huh.
ring me
Yeah.
up.
See, not to go down the rabbit hole on Origins too much, but as far as that line is concerned, they're not even giving me a Skeletor that is a good version of Skeletor, because that mouth being open is so
Yeah,
not right to me. Like
yeah, the
Skeletor is not
teeth,
somebody that
everything
looks.
else. Yeah,
He looks like he's surprised, like it's his birthday and everybody jumped out and said happy birthday. It just, I cannot enjoy that at all. I never like it when they have figures that have open mouths. Like Beastman Starling with that look is one thing.
right.
But no. So right off the bat, that's a swing and a miss for me anyway. So it's like I don't even have a proper Skeletor. So my heart already is like half, even like a third quarter, or yeah, third quarter, a
Third quarter,
third, yeah, third quarter works, but
a
it
third
doesn't
of a
work in the
quarter.
case. I don't want to do, but it's like a third even into the excitement of it compared to even a half or bigger than that at this point, because
hmm
I'm like,
hmm
I can't even get a decent Skeletor. Like the PowerCon exclusive was the closest that I would have been like, that's my Skeletor then, until they come out with one when it has its mouth shut. And
Yep.
so my
No,
little soapbox moment, but
I that I completely agree on. And speaking of things we agree and disagree on, segue was a little bit earlier, but let's get into our topic for today. Sean, what are we talking about today?
what are we talking about any day? No. Um, I'll preface this, and I know we talked about it before recording. We both want to give a big shout out to Steve and Jeremy over at Podcasters of the Universe when it comes to this episode.
And I will drop a link down below to promote them because they definitely inspired this.
Definitely, and it's something that I go back to. They even on their podcast have said, "Oh, Sean Scavarna listens to this episode a lot," because they know that's one of my favorites. And episodes 6 and 7 of their podcast, they go into the Masters of the Universe LP record. It's the one that has He-Man with his battle axe and shield knocking the power sword out of Skeletor's hand, and Teela's got him for backup, and right there, they're in the middle there. And I had that one when I was a kid, and lo and behold, I'm listening to their show, and I'm getting to hear my childhood all over again by them playing clips from this on over the span of 6 and 7 for their episodes. So we wanted to say, hey, thanks for giving us hey, we need to cover this at some point too, because this is a fun thing. And in Matt's case, I know he's like, you still like this theme song.
Well, and here's let me tell my story now. So I've seen this record bounce around over the years because it's a very striking cover and everything. Mm-hmm. But I never thought much of it. And it is a kid stuff record, but it had no book with it. It is just a record, and it is a full record, unlike the storybook ones, which were only about like 7 to 10 minutes. This one has 2 sides, front and back. It's about 45 minutes total. And so and I know Sean's talked about the record, and I'm like, I never listened to it or whatever. And then when I was going around trying to find inspiration for our intro and outro, I was listening to all these different stuff, scrolling the internet, and I came across the audio for this, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's hear it. And that opening song started, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I could not even sit through this opening song, and I gave Sean quite a bit of grief, teasing, lovingly teasing. You
were howling, laughing, going, "What the crap? You like this?"
I was. It is, and we'll get to that in a minute here. But I stopped there, and I never revisited it, and then. Fast forward, and we're talking months later here. I did discover Podcasters of the Universe. I'd always known of them, but I never really followed it. But I'm just randomly scrolling through the back catalog of their episodes there at work one day, trying to take my mind off the monotonous unstacking that I was doing, and they start talking about this record, and they played some clips from it. And after that first clip that they played, I'm like, I've got to go listen to this. I've got to make it through that theme song, and I've got to listen to it. And then after listening to it, I'm like, okay, Sean, this is what we're talking about. Like,
it works. It works like this.
A lot of it works. It's very much its own thing.
Yep.
And real quick here before I forget. And the other interesting thing is there's not a lot of information about this record. No idea who the voice cast is. Who the composers were, like anything. Like there's not a lot of information out there about this. But it was first released in 1983, shortly before the Filmation cartoon premiered. It was written and produced by John Braden, and that's the only credit I could find for this entire thing, is that it was written and produced by John Braden. It's another. We keep getting stuck in this place though, because it's this intermediate step between the first 4 mini comics and Filmation. So basically, it's like first 4 mini comics, that DC miniseries we've already covered, this, and then Filmation. So it's in that gray area again, where a lot of it's influenced by that Michael Halperin Bible that he wrote for Mattel in 1982, which led into the Filmation series Bible. But it's also very much its own thing. So
yep.
So that's what we're talking about today. We're gonna do side 1 today because this is a long record. So we're gonna do the first side today. Next week we'll have our full episode, and then the next half episode after that we'll come back and finish side 2. But for side 1 today, you want to jump in, Sean, or you got anything more to say before we listen?
Basically, the thing about this, I love this era of Masters because I like that it was still in flux, and I like that you're seeing the building of the story, and you're witnessing the transitions, like you were saying. It's that gray area that to me, that era is usually the lost era. I remember it very vividly because this was the beginnings of the stuff that everybody else got when Filmation hit. But this is a good, fond memory. And again, thank you to Steve and Jeremy over at Podcasters for reminding me of this, because it was years since I even listened to the record. And it brought back all these images in my head of, like, I had the record player in my room, sitting on the floor, all of my figures and Castle Grayskull and everything. And it's just like I would sit there and look at that cover art, and I would just have the images of this painted in my head. And then right after I was done listening to it, I had all my figures out, and I'm like, now I'm going to do it. And I'm playing it. And all that stuff. It's like, that is why this line is what it is. It's like it unleashed your imagination, and then you had to play something. It influenced you that way. And this is one of those, like I said, it's in the lost era to me. So this is worthy of a listen. Whether you think the theme is ridiculous or it's amazing, it doesn't matter. Just listen to it.
Yes, and real quick, you just reminded me. Do you still have your childhood record, or has that been lost to time?
It might be lost to time at this point. My mom had all of the records I had when I was a kid, so there's a chance they might be at her house. But a lot of that kind of stuff that she's finding, she usually would bring over before all this craziness happened with the world. So I have a feeling it might be lost to time, but it is something. If I got a record player, I'd be real tempted again, and I'm not going to lie. So,
well, I was just curious because looking around, there seems to be 2 copies of this. The one like I use for the image there, where it's just that the cover, and then that Kid Stuff logo is that yellow and red, like that Kid Stuff logo we see on all the books. Yeah. And there seems to be another version where this is actually open, and the picture of He-Man and Skeletor is on the record itself. And you can, like, see through it, and it's got a Kid Stuff logo that's a little different from that one. So I was just curious if you remembered which one you had.
I had the one that it was the solid cover on it, because I had that right in my hands. I still remember it to this day. And if I remember right, the record had nothing on it other than, like, the sticker in the middle to just say, Masters of the Universe Kid Stuff kind of thing. And like you flip it on the back, and there's He-Man, and to quote Jeremy, he's in his Captain Morgan stance doing, he just threw Skeletor off the parapet of Grayskull with either he's belting out something crazy from hair metal, or it's the why'd you make me do it kind of thing, as they said on the show. And it's true. It's because, like, as a kid, I even was like, he went there. Yeah. I mean, that was like the first chance of, like, Man of Steel in my life, where I was like, holy crap, he just broke Zod's neck. It's like, well, He-Man did that in 1983. What are you worried about?
It's fine.
So, yeah, it all worked out in the end. Everybody was happier. Whatever.
Yep. So. All right, so let's jump right in. And listeners, I am going to let this theme play. So buckle in. Here we go.
This is the good stuff. Oh, I love it. I love it.
do like the part where it gets the echoes. That part is where I start jamming.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, here comes
the part that I like. Yes.
Space. Lost in time. Win,
Slight
win,
glitch
win,
there,
win,
but
win.
we're back, people. We're gonna win. It's not over yet, folks. I know it seems like it should be, but it's not.
I love it.
Halfway there. Halfway there.
Halfway there. We are the masters of the universe. Oh. Cody's getting into it.
Did they really have to repeat every verse 3 times?
Yes, they did.
They already told me how it ends. Who are they?
There we go. Oh.
Now this is the part I like.
It's that 80s drumming.
Absolutely. Plus the thunder.
Oh, I love it. You're sitting there going, what the hell did we just let on this podcast?
4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Oh,
The theme song. Now, I gotta admit, yes, that end part there, the echoes, like, it's got a good beat. It really does, but it just drags on. Whoever thought it's like, hey, we're gonna make this record book introducing Masters of the Universe. Like, oh, it's gotta start with like a 5 minute guitar solo with thunder in the background, like clearly.
Is there any other way to do that? I mean, jeez.
Like I said, once I listened to it all, and especially once you listen to the story we're about to, it really does grow on you. To where at work today I was humming this song, but
It's
the singing itself is just so Sunny and Cher variety hour, like and even Sean agrees. I said, and that's why I said after the first time I listened to this, before I listened to the rest of the record, I'm like, it sounds like a '70s, but like, welcome to the Masters of the Universe Variety Hour, starring Skeletor and He-Man. Special appearances by Beastman and Tila. Yay!
Yeah.
And Sean, what does it remind you of?
I even as a kid, when I was a kid listening to this album, I remember thinking to myself, are they getting to the point yet? Because that was like as a kid, you're like, I want to hear the story. And this thing just kept going. And I'm like, I just already heard all that stuff. They're repeating it. Why are they repeating it? I already got the idea.
Every verse.
The thing is, for me, it's infectious. Like you said, you were humming it all day. And there's something about it where, like, this falling between the mini comics and when Filmation aired, there's that part of me that I told you, I was like, I thought I had an in. I thought I knew that this was going to be the theme song to the cartoon and all this, because this was the theme they used in other recordings later on. Like they didn't use the whole theme, but the melody was used and stuff.
You're right. Like it'll be used in this one later.
Yeah, I thought, I thought it was going to be, this is going to be the setup to everything else. And boy, was I wrong. Yeah. And I don't mind the theme song to Filmation. It's okay. But
much better. But this one is good. But and that is neat that they actually took the time. So this is kids stuff. This is a division of Golden Book. Like they actually took the time, like, hey, we're going to make a theme song and we're going to use this across multiple records. Like that's some commitment there. You wouldn't get that nowadays,
It is, and it gives you this feeling, which is great. But the thing I love too, and again, I told you this personally, I want to tell the listeners now, is in my head listening to that as a kid, all I could think of was the live shots that you'd see of the people, all of the rock musical superstars from the 80s gathered together to do We Are the World.
Yeah.
So all I had in my head was like He-Man, Skeletor sharing a mic, Teela and Evelyn sharing a mic, Beastman and Man-at-Arms, and they're doing the bass sections. Teela and Evelyn are doing the higher women vocals, and then He-Man and Skeletor, we will fight, they're doing the thing, And I had this, like, He-Man's doing the Huey Lewis where he's like getting into it with his singing, and
so I just the headphones.
Exactly, yeah. They had to have their hand on one side, or else it wasn't legit, Yeah. And that was how I pictured it, because I'm like, I don't know who's singing this, but I'm guessing they make me want to think it's He-Man singing it. Now I'm like, I don't know why He-Man had a musical career. The Ninja Turtles did that before him, but.
Actually, they did it after him, but
well, you know what? Before he did it, as in like he never did that. Is what I'm trying to say. So, but yeah, that was one of those moments watching it or listening to it. My mind went to some really weird places from the '80s, but
absolutely
no. To this day, I still love that. There's this cheesiness that it's so thick. It's like Velveeta is jealous.
All right, so let's jump back in. Let's see what's up next here.
Far in the deepest reaches of space, hidden from view by the swirling gases of 1 trillion solar systems, lies a world beyond all imagining. Here, spinning in the endless blackness of space, exists the planet Eternia.
Yeah.
Eternia. Even in the name, you can hear the magic. The roar of the winds that whip their way through the rocky mountaintops. The crashing of the waves that cast themselves upon the sandy shores of time on this mysterious world, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the universe. Eternia. the equatorial vine jungle, whose steamy swamps swarm with gigantic serpents and twisted man-eating plants whose roots dangle dangerously, waiting to trap and devour any foolhardy intruder. Eternia, where the evergreen forest towers as immense trees reach upward toward the fleecy blue sky overhead. The thick, ferny underbrush teems with countless strange creatures who have evolved into life forms much different from those on Earth. Great winged lizards dangle by their scaly claws from the topmost branches of the pines, while deep within the mossy caves that line the cliffs, awesome dragons watch the world through beady green eyes and spew their sulphurous breath out into the morning chill. Eternia, the sprawling sands of time, a desert whose shifting dunes hide ruins of long past ages when great stone temples lined the streets of imperial cities, all gone now, swallowed up and swept away by the constant changing sands. All that remain are a few crumbling monuments to tell the tale of a forgotten civilization that labored and perished in the unforgiving desert. Eternia, a world of unimaginable beauty and unspeakable danger. For it is here, on this isolated planet, that one of the greatest battles between good and evil in the universe is being played out. The monstrous Skeletor, a villain of unending cunning and wit.
I know I cut it off mid-sentence, but I wanted to talk a second about that description of Eternia. And I haven't listened to this enough to recall where all the cuts are. But man, this guy John Braden, man, he paints a picture. Like, I love the descriptions of all the play, and you're getting all the familiar places that you're used to, which shows this is after the Halperin Bible, because you got the vine jungle, you got the sands of time, you got the evergreen forest, and just how in knowing he's only got dialogue, how he just paints this picture between that and the sound effects in the background. I think that's the best part, is the little squawks and roars and the wind howling. And it definitely paints you that picture of this is between the two, because there's a little bit of that forgotten civilization that was wiped out, but then also there's a lot. It's not just a wasteland.
True. I mean, this intro it's absolutely stunning. Every time I hear this, this is why I love my childhood. Yeah, like, it wasn't talking down to me. It wasn't even attempting to make it dumbed down so that hopefully I will, at 4 years old, understand what they're trying to tell me on this record. The verboseness he used and the vocabulary he used, it went above and beyond what I would even be capable of hearing my parents say. But still, I'm painting these images in my head, and it's making this 3D world full of life in just a few sentences to maybe like 2 paragraphs worth about Eternia. And for those who are watching it on the video, at least our expressions and stuff, I'm just sitting here with such a big dumb smile, because I can't not hear this stuff and just go like, I'm getting chills going, this is why I had all the different toy brands as a kid, but Masters was the one I kept coming back to, because it awakened the imagination like no other, in my opinion. And it's so well written. I mean, I love that just in and of itself. I could listen to that on a loop all day and just be like completely walking on air going like, this is the stuff. Right. And on top of that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've got the transcript here, and it's just like, it's all amazing, but this one line here, it's like, during the Sands of Time speech, it's all that remains are a few crumbling monuments to tell the tale of a forgotten civilization that labored and perished in the unforgiving desert. Like, this, again, I'm not going to harp on it, but recent stuff has shown how they try and write down to certain demographics, and it just comes off flat. you don't need to write down. I mean, that is not talking down to kids at all. He's just like, I'm going to tell a story. And he
Mm-hmm.
thinks about it from beginning to end. Like, okay, these warriors didn't just spring up here overnight. There was
Mm-hmm.
a before, where they are, and there's going to be an after. So
Mm-hmm.
keeping all that in mind when you're writing is a big thing. And right there,
Yes.
it's like, he didn't have to take time to talk about the people who lived in like a civilization that died out in the sands of time. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
meaningless to the story, but it creates that bigger world.
It
The
does.
world building in this for opening segment alone is amazing.
Yeah, 2002's got nothing on this. There's a 2000X MYP. It's like, for as much as I tout that for the world building, it's got nothing on the beginning of this record, and it's such a great intro. And the thing too, hand in hand, you have the music and the special effects, the sound effects, but then you also have the narrator. And the narrator, I know they were trying to figure out on podcasters who he sounded like, and I figured it out just the other day. For me, he reminds me of if Vincent Price and Stan Lee just melded their voices, that would be how I hear him.
Okay.
And it brings back the energy and this gravatas that a lot of things don't have for this brand. It's like this guy it's like he's the village elder, and he's beckoning the kids to come over so he can tell them a tale by the firelight. And this is He-Man. It's like, this is building this legend in such a great way. And that's why, like, I get chills listening to it, because this is the kind of stuff that's effective of this brand. But it does it so well that it doesn't have to even equate to your childhood. It can just be, just listen to this.
Right.
Just enjoy it,
I will say there is a dash of Peter Cullen in there for me. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about that's very Optimus Prime-like and he's the narrator in a lot of things. He actually did some of the early Masters of the Universe toy commercials as well. So there's a little bit of that there, that kind of, like you said, that kind of superiority.
Yeah, the gravata. It reminds me, like in Transformers the movie, they had that, the narrator at it is the year 2005. Yeah, he has a little bit of that, and I love that. I appreciate it. But he has this warmth, but he also has this dignity he's bringing to what you're about to listen to, and I'm always blown away by that when it comes to this record.
Absolutely. All right, so now let's learn about Skeletor and He-Man.
Has escaped. After years of isolation on his own planet, Infinitive, and with a legion of demons at his side, threatens the safety and tranquility of Eternia. But Eternia has a protector. A hero foretold in legend and myth since the dawn of Eternian time. Centuries ago, Eternia's wise rulers, the Council of Elders, sensed that sometime in the future, danger would descend on their planet. In one moment of incredible concentration, they compressed all their accumulated knowledge and wisdom about the universe into one omnipotent glowing orb of power. They transformed the center of their government, the lustrous Hall of Wisdom, into a fearsome, rocky castle with the stone face of a skull at its front. They placed the orb of light and wisdom deep in the musty dungeons of the castle, where it would be safe from the forces of evil. Over the thousands of years that followed, the thick evergreen forest swallowed up the frightful edifice, and it disappeared into memory and folk legend. But to this very day, its name brings a chill of fear and awe. It is the mighty Castle Grayskull. And now, the evil warrior that the wise Council of Elders feared has arrived. Skeletor stalks the planet, searching for a way to seize control. But at every turn, his wickedness is checked by the heroic protector spoken of in the old tales. A giant of a man with long golden hair and rippling muscles that gleam in the brilliant Eternian sunlight. This is He-Man.
Okay, so a lot of info there. So it's definitely following the Mattel series Bible there, where the Council of Wisdom or the Hall of Wisdom became Castle Grayskull. They hid the orb away. Yes, people, that origin did not just pop up in 2000X randomly. Although they tweaked it a little bit, the Hall of Wisdom just disappeared. But the Orb of Power and everything, that's been around for a long time. It even appears in the Filmation Bible as well. It never got to that. So, where they actually explained it. But it did show up here. It showed up in the Golden Book Castle Grayskull. So, it's a different origin, but I dig it. I dig it.
No, like to this day, like just that build up to when you hear him say the name Castle Grayskull, there's just this awe to that, and oh my god, it just makes me happy. I can't. I'm grinning. Basically, anybody watching videos can be like, Sean's just smiling the whole time. He's a freaking fool. But this is the basis of how I knew this line was the mini comics, and this is like if they could have gotten Alfredo Alcala to do the mini comic to this story, I don't think there would have been a mini comic better, because the story's good on top of the fact that the artwork would have been amazing looking too. But all of that history, and when I was a kid, I never once was bored listening to this. It actually made me more invested in the brand, because I was like, wow, all this stuff that I'm getting told about the leading up to Castle Grayskull and and then on top of that, you have the Infinita deal with Skeletor in this version. So that throws a little bit more of a twist into his origin for here, but yeah, and even like that theme kicking in, and the fact that you have it, but Eternia has a protector. It's like it's that moment where you're just like, it's the damn closest thing that you have to Adam taking that pose and pulling the sword out. Basically that's your moment here, and it's still just as awesome to just hear that build up there, because this is He-Man. It's like
right. Yeah, we talked about Skeletor. We've given the basis for Castle Grayskull. Yeah. And this is 9.5 minutes here, folks, of actual playtime. And 7 minutes of that was the intro, the theme song. So so let's find out about He-Man.
Let's do it.
In order to protect his true identity and thus make it harder for Skeletor to destroy him,
secret identity
lives a double life as Prince Adam, playful son of King Randor and Queen Marlena. Even now, as we speak, Prince Adam is playing with his pet tiger, Cringer, in the beautiful gardens that surround his father's castle. He and his feline friend romp in the tall grass, happy and carefree, unaware that, as He-Man, he is about to face the most difficult and dangerous challenge of his life. A life and death struggle with Skeletor, the outcome of which will determine the fate of the planet and perhaps the entire universe.
It's real quick there, because we're about to get into his story, so that's the last of the introduction. Here again. I hate being that guy, but I also love being that guy. So all you people who, Filmation ruined it because they made Prince Adam, and I liked my He-Man just being He-Man, and why did Filmation have to ruin it? So now we've got the DC miniseries and this record book that both predated Filmation. So, like it or not, it was not a Filmation decision. It was where Mattel was going with this brand. So we have, I'll get up on my soapbox for a minute. So we have isolated those first 4 mini comics are the only ones where He-Man doesn't have a secret identity and he's just He-Man. So stop blaming my beloved Filmation.
I don't know. For me, I grew up with this one. Like I said, this was a huge exposure into a bigger world, more than even the mini comics.
Absolutely.
it didn't really bother. It's weird because I wish I could go back and actually sit down with me the day I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to know if I got this after or before Filmation actually hit, because it never once made me go, "Who the hell's Prince Adam?" Like, I either knew it from the DC book, but I told you I didn't have the first issue of that. And he was only Adam in the first issue. He was He-Man throughout the issue 2. Although no, technically he had his
the flashback.
He went backward and then they did the flashback. So maybe that's how I did it, or there might have been some other story because the Golden books were also coming out. Maybe it was that. Right. I don't know, but he, never complained about it.
And that's the thing. Even your fuzzy memories prove that it flowed so seamlessly. Like this whole He-Man should have stayed just He-Man. You know, Prince Adam was just like, everything felt out of place after that. Like, that's something as you get older and you go back and look at it, you come up with. I think to any kid watching it at the time, they were just like, okay, I'm in. You know, the mini comics came out, it's like, he's just He-Man. Then this comes out, he's Adam. The DC comes out, he's Adam. The Filmation comes out. And, like, you just rolled with it. Yeah, once you get older and you look back, then you're like, okay, like I can see where they jumped. But at the moment, I doubt there were very few kids that were that way, you know.
Well, the one thing that I will say, though, is I do remember listening to this, and the version of Adam that I saw in my head was the blue tunic one from DC.
Sure. And
that was, I had him, because he was even in some of the Alcala mini comics. Like there was the one with Randor and Marlena in the library at the beginning of it when there's an earthquake and all that. And I think that stuff was already out by the time I got this. I want to say it was. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I know there was something there, and I remember thinking this whole scene, he's in the blue tunic, the way that I pictured it. Because I remember when Filmation hit, and all of a sudden he comes out of the shadow, and he's wearing the pink and everything, or the whatever. And I remember going, huh? Yeah. Like, this is not who I was sold in the DC comics and the other comics. So that was like a huge sharp contrast to me then. But then I also, in my head, was going, it's the 80s. I honestly, that was the way I brushed it off.
Exactly. So, all right, I'm good. Let's see what Adam and Cringer are doing here, shall we?
Yeah, let's check in on them.
Careful, my furry friend. Your claws are sharp. Sometimes you do not realize your own strength. Here, I will toss this stick out onto the lawn, and you will find it and return it to me. You understand?
Cringer growled with pleasure. He loved the long afternoons he and his master spent in games and fun. Adam hurled the wooden stick high into the air. It soared over the flower beds and landed far away in a bushy area at the very edge of the castle grounds. Sometimes Prince Adam didn't realize his own strength either. Cringer charged away after the stick.
Good cat! Find it and bring it to me.
Suddenly, a huge black shadow swept across the green lawn. The warm afternoon air was stirred to a chill by the flapping overhead of two gigantic wings. Prince Adam gazed up into the cloudless sky and saw an amazing sight. It was Zor, the falcon, the great winged bird, whose wingspan was more than 20 yards across, glided low, skimming the tops of the tall trees that surround the castle walls. And most amazing of all, on the falcon's wide feathered back rode Man-at-Arms, Prince Adam's teacher and companion. In a sweeping arc, the giant bird and its rider soared over the lawn and landed in a flurry just a few yards from the young prince. Man-at-Arms slid down along one of the gigantic wings as Prince Adam rushed to his side.
20 yards?
Yeah, I miss those days. I miss when Zor was like this badass big freaking falcon flying around instead of the sorceress sometimes.
But 20 yards? Do you know what that equates to?
It's not as big as you'd think, but it's still bigger than the sorceress is, I think.
20 yards equals... I looked it up earlier because I wanted to bring this up. 20 yards equals 60 feet. 60. That's 10 of me.
I'm completely wrong in how big I thought that was, because for some reason it just didn't even equate. So yeah, welcome to Sean is bad at math. So there you go.
That's bigger than the eagles from Lord of the Rings. Like that's that's
an
office building.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine it's like, and also to be like, here's Man at Arms coming in on it. It's like, I'm sure Man at Arms looks like a speck at this point.
Man at Arms has the whole freaking. It's gonna take him a day just to climb down the wings. Hey,
exactly. That's why, not to spoil anything, but that's why he doesn't show up for the rest of it. He's just like, I'm up here. It took me all day. You go do it. You go figure it out. But no, like I love that era too. I love that the birds were freaking huge instead of being these like typical birds like you'd see on Earth. You know, I mean, there's birds that are big, but 60 freaking yards, I'd be scared to death of having that land near me. Imagine it reminds me of Harry the Hendersons with the condor took a shit in our pool. Imagine how that would be.
No, I will agree that I'd like to see them both. Honestly, I like the sorceress becoming Zor. Like I never want that to change, but it'd be nice to have some big battle birds too.
Yeah,
like, keep Screech a big bird, and then just rename him. Like give the heroic warriors their Zor, but just give them a new name. And make it the heroic fighting falcon. Like that'd be cool. I could get behind that.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, the cats were one thing, but to me, that was part of what made this special too. Those birds being huge, and they looked epic and mythic. I mean, when you see them next to the figures, they're still not as big as they're saying on the record, but there was this like, that's a huge bird anyway. Like
it was. I used to make them pick them up. You could use the feet to pick up the figures and everything.
Exactly. So you got the Air Force then, basically. He can start dropping rocks on people and stuff.
Absolutely.
Instead of picking them up and throwing them, he can just throw them from the air now.
I like it. All right, let's see what Man at Arms has to tell our young prince.
Greetings, my friend, and greetings to Zor, the Falcon, too. I see concern on your brow, my teacher.
The enormous bird settled its mammoth wings by its side in a gust of wind as Man-at-Arms put his hand on Prince Adam's mighty shoulder, and the two of them walked through the garden, talking.
I am afraid, sire, that I am not the bearer of good news.
This I sensed, my friend. Please tell me what is wrong.
There is trouble in the Northlands, my lord. The wicked Skeletor has found his way dangerously close to Castle Grayskull.
That bony fiend! His wickedness knows no bounds!
It is worse than you think, my prince. Skeletor has learned of the wisdom of the elders, which is hidden deep inside Castle Grayskull. He has vowed by all that is unholy to break into the castle and gain control over the elders' wisdom.
This must not be done! With this power, Skeletor could easily rule all Eternia. His cruel leadership would plunge our world back thousands of years into the Dark Ages once more. All across the planet, the light of hope and joy would be snuffed out by this fiend. He will be stopped if it takes my last breath to do it.
I knew, my lord, that you would not let your people down. The fate of the planet rests on the outcome of this battle.
In an instant, Prince Adam reached down and grasped the sword which always hung by his side. He seized it in his strong hand and lifted it high overhead. It gleamed in the afternoon sun. This was the Sword of Power, given to him by the sorceress, protector of Castle Grayskull. With this mighty weapon, Prince Adam could transform himself and his pet tiger Cringer into He-Man and Battle Cat, his armored mount.
I am ready to do my duty to defend this planet. Skeletor will perish!
Then in a booming voice that echoed off the castle walls and out into the forest, Prince Adam shouted the magic words that would cause his amazing transformation.
By the power of Castle Grayskull! By the power of Castle Grayskull!
The earth shook underfoot, and black clouds swept across the Eternian sky, darkening the sun. Overhead, the heavens opened up, and down through the inky clouds flashed a brilliant bolt of white light. In a split second, it crashed onto the very tip of the sword of power like a bolt of lightning. A shower of blue sparks flew upward toward the heavens. Even the gods watched on in amazement as in a blinding moment, the molecules of Prince Adam's body danced and swirled in a kaleidoscopic pattern of energy and change. Moments later, as the blue smoke cleared, Prince Adam was gone. In his place, muscles poised for action, stood He-Man. By his side stood Battle-Cat. The power of Castle Grayskull had transformed Cringer into a fierce animal, a huge cat with green and yellow stripes and gigantic sharp claws and fangs. He-Man leaped up onto the enormous cat's broad, muscular back, and with a shout, the two brave fighters charged off into the forest toward Castle Grayskull.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the stuff. That's the stuff. It might diverge, but there is something just the descriptors and the narrator telling you what is happening during the transformation, because I don't know. This might have been like the first time I ever heard of the transformation in this way. I don't remember. So that's why my fuzzy memory is not remembering when that mini comic hit that I'm talking about versus the DC. But
it's very
the
memorable.
whole thing. Oh, the whole thing is entirely memorable. Yeah.
It creates a picture with it changing from that's and the theme music, like, you know, and that's one of the things I love about Filmation. You know, that it's the theme music throughout just paints a perfect picture. Same thing here, like you go from that like towards the whole Cringer and Adam playing to the you know, I do horrible music. But yeah, it starts getting that as he's drawing the sword and everything. You know, it's and yeah, just the way he talks about the heavens, the sun, the earth, the blue smoke, like you can envision that transformation just as much as you can the Filmation one. You know, it's very nicely done. I'm glad Filmation Adam doesn't have to repeat his phrase though, because that's
I mean, even
I don't
going
even
through
mind them putting the castle part in there, but the fact that he has to say it twice is like, okay.
Yeah, like again, Filmation they knocked that thing out of the park so hard that there's nothing that has yet to come up against it to make me go, I like this better. There's nowhere the theme, everything in that moment, John Irwin's voice, his delivery, but it's funny to me because if Adam is so carefree and playful, to listen to the way he talks with Man-at-Arms here doesn't make me completely believe he's as carefree and playful compared to, you know, what are you doing, Adam? I'm watercoloring, you know, like on Filmation or whatever, versus in this one, he's just like, I sense this, my friend. And he's like the delivery is how he delivered, you know, and
it's him and Man-at-Arms alone. So, I mean, it's, you know, obviously, Man-at-Arms still knows the secret in this because he transforms right in front of him.
He transforms right in front of him, yeah.
So it's a little bit more like you see him where he can be serious, which, again, I'm not doing the rant. You guys all know it. You know me by now. You know, Prince Adam, the carefree Adam is an act. So.
Well, the other thing, the thing that gets me, like, I still remember these lines of dialogue. Like, I don't remember them well enough to quote it verbatim. Yeah. But when I hear them, I'm just like, oh, like I remember the cadence and all that. But even now, like years later, he has that Skeletor must be stopped. And all I keep hearing is Megatron must be stopped no matter the cost. It's like I love it, but this was years before that, so there you go. He-Man was already drawing the line in the sand, so there you
and he does have that very generic, like, good guy voice, like Prince Adam and He-Man in this. They're very much just that stereotypical, and there's nothing wrong with it. I actually think it's one of the better portrayals of He-Man outside of John Irwin. But John Irwin brought that little bit of something to it. I can't even put into words what it is, but he broke it out of that stereotypical mold that this is, you know.
I think the thing for me in this is it's the stilted way that he talks. It's part of the issue. Like He-Man. Filmation He-Man always had this, like, he wasn't using the King's English to the extent like this one is. He was talking the way you and I would talk, but he wasn't using slang. And you know, like in this one, I sense that, my friend. He's got this really stilted way of delivering it, and I don't mind it, but it is kind of funny to hear this version.
Yeah, so. Well, he's speechifying. That's what I'm saying. He's that good guy. Like, we will win.
Yeah.
Let us go.
The victory shall be ours.
Yeah.
It's like they told you the whole story before it starts.
So let's finish up this side here. Let's see what Skeletor and his evil warriors are up to.
Meanwhile, on a rocky bluff overlooking Castle Grayskull, Skeletor and his wicked followers, Evelyn, Beastman, and Triclops, gazed down at the view below. It was dusk, and the setting Eternian sun cast strange, twisted shadows as its last remaining rays filtered down through the ancient pines. Far below Skeletor and his friends rested Castle Grayskull. In the dim half-light of sunset, the castle glowed with an eerie green light that seemed to radiate from within the moss-covered stone walls.
Cool.
The eye-like windows of the skull-faced castle stared out menacingly, as if to warn any would-be intruders to stay far away. A shroud of swirling fog was settling over the castle now. It wrapped its misty fingers around the castle towers and spiraled towards the damp earth. The castle's entrance, the huge tooth-lined mouth of the skull, was sealed shut. Like the mouth of a long-dead man, it knew many secrets, but would speak none of them. Small, leathery bats flapped their way out of the cracks in the castle walls and darted madly across the blackening sky. It was a sight that would fill most people with fear and disgust. But it had just the opposite effect on Skeletor. The castle's bony exterior mirrored his own skull face, and he gazed on in admiration.
Isn't it beautiful? What a lovely sight. And to think, soon Castle Grayskull will be mine, all mine. Once I am inside the castle, I will find the secret of Castle Grayskull, and the wisdom of the elders of this miserable planet will belong to me. Of course, there is the small matter of the unavoidable fight between He-Man and me, but that is of little consequence. His puny power will prove to be no match for the power of evil I possess. By the time the sun sets another day, I, Skeletor, will be the supreme ruler of all Eternia, and Castle Grayskull will be mine. Mine! Mine!
Yep.
Yep.
That, the ending of that makes me think of him on the volcano.
Yeah.
Like, I could so see the Alcala of him on the volcano with his sword and everything, like in that mini comic. And I mean, I know Frank Langella took the role of Skeletor because his son loved He-Man so much, and it makes me wonder if they had a copy of that record, because this Skeletor really has that Frank vibe to it to me.
It does. It does. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it works. Yeah, he's got not quite as good as Frank Langella though. I'll give it that. Like Frank Langella is like top notch, but this guy's I'll put him slightly under Alan Oppenheimer. So
Okay, that's still good cred. I mean, geez.
It is. It's just it's same problem that I have with He-Man. Like it's just a little too stereotypical bad guy. Like
sure,
you could put almost any evil guy there and be like, okay, this is his dialogue, you know. So
yeah,
but the dialogue's great and his delivery's good. It just I like something a little more unique for my Skeletor. So more Brian Dobson, Alan Oppenheimer. So
sure. I know there's other recordings later on where it reminded me Skeletor in the one. It was the Thief of Castle Grayskull.
Yeah,
I think it was where
that one's
he
a good
has.
one. I like that one.
Well, here's the thing. That one reminds me of when I was a kid and I'd talk into a fan while it was running. To me, that Skeletor was just like some guy just walked up to a fan and he started talking into it, you know. And it's like this one, I kind of like that. He's got this. There's almost like this underlying ghoulishness to the way he's talking because he's delighting in all this stuff. And he's selling it, man. He is just selling the crap out of, you know, the evil. It's like everything he says is like dripping with a little extra evil just for the heck of it. And again, the sound effects, those are so great in this moment. The music and just having that ominous tones while he's talking, and then when they were talking about the actual like the details of Grayskull and the glowing, the green glow of it and all that, I'm like, I want to see that either on the big screen or in a cartoon where Grayskull has that, like, it's radiating with the power coming out of it. Like
the bats like flying out of cracks and just the whole eeriness. I mean, it's right up there with the Filmation where you get at night and all the lightning striking and everything. Like, oh yes, no, that was very well done. It really paints the picture. I like the fact that we're like, you know, He-Man's racing to Grayskull and the evil warriors are already there. They're like, okay, we got this. We're going to bust into here. We're going to get this before the day's out. Like, by tomorrow, I'm going to be master of the universe. Like,
I feel like that is a common theme in a lot of stories, though. Like, I know Separation, He-Man's like 2 steps behind Too Bad the whole time. Curse of the Spellstone, one of your favorites, 2 steps behind Skeletor throughout the whole thing. And it's like, I think that's how they need to write. He-Man is not a proactive character in that way. He does not seek out Skeletor and find out what he's up to that day to make sure he's not causing trouble. It's, he's causing trouble. It's like Batman. Batman is not proactive. He's more reactive, just like He-Man in this case. So it amuses me on that level that, you know, it feels like some of the best stories are always the race against time of him needing to get somewhere before Skeletor can enter it or get to it or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like this is a good case in point.
Well, and that's it. And here, what they're doing here is what they should have done in that DC miniseries, where they're just keeping it simple. We're just we got here's Eternia, here's He-Man, Man at Arms. You know, here's Skeletor and his evil warriors. They're trying to get in Grayskull. Like that.
Yep.
So
there you go. Sets the stage. This is what it's about.
And that's it. This is another way that Mattel's trying to, especially with them kind of revising things as they go. This whole record is another way for them to push out there, like, okay, kids, this is what it's all about, and this is doing it very well so far. So
this record and a lot of the stuff that led up to Filmation for me it reminds me almost of like Star Wars, and by that what I mean is the first Star Wars ever, the New Hope Episode 4, or just Star Wars, whatever you want to call it, is a work of George Lucas had to do so many things to get that thing to even function the way that it did to become this behemoth that we know it to be today. And this is like you're watching them putting the wheels on the car in this. It's like they're getting this going, they're tuning up the motor, and they're going to launch it. And Filmation is going to be the thing that launches it into the stratosphere for the 80s kids and for generations. But that's why I love this. It's like the old Star Wars, you can kind of see the filmmaking in work. And this is one of those, the story, the dialogue, the sound effects, all of it. It's like, this is the closest you're going to get to like an animated special without just having the visual of it.
Right.
And I adore it for that reason, because it really, and if they did this animated, I'd still want the narrator. I don't think he needs to narrate everything, but all the stuff about Eternia, he could be narrating that while they show different lands in Eternia, and even talking about, it didn't scare Skeletor. I love that part especially.
Yeah, like
about it kept the secrets. It kept secrets like a dead man. You couldn't pry it from its lips because of its having the skull facade and all that.
And I like how they brought up that like this castle looks like Skeletor, but it's not Skeletor. Like, I like that they actually acknowledge that here. Like, okay, kids, like, just because it looks like him, it just means he's not afraid, which has kept a lot of people away over the years. It's like, I'm not going near that, and he's just like, whatever. I look at that in the mirror every morning. Who cares? Let's go get that power.
Exactly. And it really does a great job of really pushing out there why this is such an interesting story, because the idea that it's still to this day, I love the idea. Here's Castle Grayskull. What is Castle Grayskull? It's this freaking scary castle in Eternia. And what does it do? It gives the hero the power. Right. That's awesome. That's so against what you would expect it to be. And this is such a good example of, he's still, by the power of Castle Grayskull times 2, and here and then you're getting the whole development of this is what it's all about, and it's still like, it's eerie to listen to that scene and give you that, like, you're picturing the darkness, you're picturing the glowing of it, you're picturing Skeletor looking out over it, and there's this sense of like, he should be home. This should be his home. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's a good record. It's setting everything up. It's well written, well acted, very well produced, edited, put together. I'm gonna go an 8 out of 10. It's there's some stuff that doesn't quite hit it for me, but that's just my personal preferences. But it's amazingly well done. Solid 8 right here.
The opening narration alone makes me go 9. There's no way around it, because that thing is just, it builds that world in my head.
The 22-minute theme song, you mean?
Well, the 22-minute theme song is what will make it a 10 once we go to the next day.
Oh, okay.
No, but like, seriously, like,
no, I know.
I think the only things about this that make it just slightly lower than 10 for me are, I'm not a huge fan of By the Power of Castle Grayskull twice, and little bits like that. But it's like, that's the only reason why it didn't hit 10 for me. It's like these tiny little things that I know are right around the corner in the history of the brand that make me go, like, the transformation, the description of it is amazing. But if they would have paired that with John Irwin doing, By the Power of Grace, holy God, would this be amazing? Yeah. Like, this would, my heart would be soaring on wings of Zor, like that's where it would amount to. But it's so close, because I literally, my face hurts. I have been smiling through every freaking moment of this episode because of this. And I still am like, I honestly could not go round 2 right now because of the lateness, but there's that part of me going, I can't wait till we get to round 2. It's side 2 next, 2 episodes from now. So
right, 2 weeks from now we'll get to that. So
yeah.
Anything else you got? You want to bring up today, Sean? Anything closing thoughts?
I'm just looking forward to the next one, because the thing about the episode 6 and 7 that I was talking about for podcasters, Steve only did clips. So the fact that we're going through the entire thing, even though we're taking our moments to talk about it, it's still, there's something even more to it, the way that we're doing it. I really love that we're going we're going the distance on this one.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to.
I wanted to make it easy for the fans to follow along because not everyone's
Yep.
heard this before, and this gives you an opportunity to not only hear the story but to hear our thoughts on it too.
Sure. So yeah, looking forward to 2 episodes from now where we get to talk shop about the end of it. And yeah, this is the good. This is why this is great. The Masters is great in my opinion. So
absolutely,
that's it. How about you?
Oh, I'm just going to do my typical rant. So, guys,
there you go.
If you're enjoying the show, you like what we had to say, go ahead and click all those buttons down below. Like us, please. If you're listening on audio, can you throw a rating on iTunes so that Sean will stop hammering me about how I talk bad about iTunes? If you're on Podbean, click the little heart. If you're on YouTube here, click the like, click the subscribe, click that little bell so you know not only when a new episode goes, but we're starting to venture into some live episodes. I forced Sean to do one, and he kind of enjoyed it. So that's something we're going to do a little more of here, more regularly. Not every episode, but more regularly. So that'll also tell you when we're going live. You can join us in the chat room. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you're thinking. Hop on over and check out our Facebook page. Drop us a line there. And we do some stuff in the page there too, sharing different things. Sean pops on for lives in the wee hours of the night. And
every now and then I delete them.
Yep. And after you're done with all our stuff, go ahead and check out Podcasters of the Universe. It's another great Masters of the Universe podcast. Steve and Jeremy are wonderful hosts, and like I said, they got me over my initial disdain for this intro. So they're good guys.
I couldn't do it, but they got it. Hey, however it worked for you, I'm glad that you're on board because
I had to be forced to hear it because, like you said, he threw clips up there, so I'm like, okay. He forced it into my ear. Like, if you had ever just sent me a message where you were just, like, recording it and, like, send it to me through Messenger, it would have done the same thing. But,
well, he didn't even do the "we will fight, we will win" bit of it, too. I'm like, that's part of the fun. Like, that bit's the part where you're just rolling your eyes going, this is so corny, but for some reason I love it anyway.
Absolutely. So. And we made it through. Made it through the whole thing, so.
Yep, we did.
So, yes, guys. Thank you all for everything. Thanks for supporting us. Click those buttons. And until next time.